Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hope everyone's doing great. Had a wonderful Sunday. You know, it's different types of Sundays these times of days, but I think it's still a great Sunday.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yep, we're really excited to speak with Sandi today. It's a very important topic, especially with what all of us are going through. And I see that Sandi has joined us. She's in the weight room. So let me introduce her and then we'll bring her in. Okay. Sandi is an elite trail runner and a US ATF and Lydia certified coach and co-founder of Sage Running, which offers top-level coaching across any surface, any distance from 5Ks to 100 milers. She's a passionate vegan and her commitment to clean eating and scientific training is unparalleled. She has completed several courses on these subjects, notably Cornell's plant-based nutrition course. Sandi is also a great advocate for equality, women's rights, veganism, animal rights, and has taken several leadership positions on many of these topics, bringing them up to surface and discussion. She's a big proponent of mindfulness, which will be our topic of discussion for today. And of course, she's a very well-accomplished trail runner. You know, we go back to 2010 for her first ever trail race, which, by the way, was a 100-miler. It was the Mohican 100-miler, which she won in 21 hours and 17 minutes, after which she's won several marathons, 50Ks, 50-milers, 100-milers, top 20 at Western States, a win and a course record at the Rudd 50K, and most recently a win at the Moab Red Hot 55K, truly making her an any distance and a very versatile athlete. Sandi runs for Rabbit, Topo Athletic, and of course, we're really very fortunate to have Sandi with us as a Unived Elite athlete. Sandi lives in Boulder, Colorado with her partner, Sage. So without further ado, let's get Sandi in.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hi, Sandi.
Good to see you guys.
We're having a little trouble with your audio.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
No. Maybe your mic is on mute.
No, it's not on mute.
Okay, I hear you now. I'm sorry. It was on our end. I forgot.
That's good.
It was on mute.
Good.
Well, good morning.
Good evening to you guys.
How are you doing today?
Thanks for staying up a little bit later today. My partner, who definitely is a night owl, appreciates sleeping in a little bit more. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for making the time on a Sunday morning, especially. It's yeah, it's nice to see you and nice to speak with you.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, how's things in Boulder? How's the weather and how's the mood overall?
Now that it stopped snowing, it's beautiful out. We had like a weird thing where like every week, like it'd be nice and then we just get dumped on with snow. But now hopefully like that's not going to happen as much anymore. So right now, like it's beautiful outside. I think today's supposed to get to like 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's nice and warm, like pleasant conditions here. So flowers are like finally starting to bloom. And I think everyone just needs a little spring right now.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Are you still able to go out and run around a little bit?
Yeah, I think we're pretty lucky in Boulder, and that we can still like go trail running. And there's been trailheads that have been shut down, but our trails haven't been closed. But the forest rangers, they've been pretty like strict about like you have to keep your distance. But it's hard. Like our trails are still really crowded, so I've been trying to like avoid our trails on the weekends.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's been okay. I just try to go to less crowded areas.
Yeah, that's great. Great to hear that you're still able to get out there and enjoy some of the trails. And because I know that a lot of other like us, we're just locked in and we can't go out and run or do anything. So it's good to hear that from your side to enjoy the trails.
Yeah, I feel lucky. I'm sure it's a huge challenge just to be stuck inside.
Yeah.
No big deal. We're just running on a belt.
I've been watching the YouTube or your Instagram.
No, it's a different challenge, you know. Life has changed. I mean, we wake up, we spend a lot of time cleaning and cooking, and Running on the treadmill, some strength work, and then working from home. So it's definitely taken some time to adapt, and it was really challenging, especially for me. I think it was easier for Monica, but it was really difficult for me to sort of wrap my head around being home all day and working from home and doing everything else from home. And I think, what helped was a little bit of meditation and a little bit of mindfulness, which is what we'll speak more about today. So, yeah.
Well, I think just like accepting it as a challenge and not like this problem that's out to get you is just such a good perspective. Like, because you can overcome challenges, or you can like rise to the occasion of a challenge, if you view it that way.
I was doing some research, Sandi, and I saw that your first trail race was back in 2010, and it was 100-miler.
Yes.
Was that intentional?
It's funny, as a coach now, it's like, what was I thinking? But the story is, when I was in college, I had accepted to be a youth ambassador for this nonprofit called Impossible to Possible. And so basically I went on this expedition to northern Canada in a place called the Quickfire Pass. So it's really close to the Arctic Circle. And the guides of this trip were all these crazy ultra runners. So there's Ray Zahab, who ran across the Sahara Desert. Jen Sager, she's done Badwater and done other like crazy expeditions. Marshall Ulrich, who like ran across America. And so it's just like they did these crazy long distance stuff. And honestly, they never mentioned anything like under 100 miles. And so like it never even occurred to me that there's like distances to run like under 100 miles. So when I got back from the trip, I was playing college basketball at the time, and I just ended up quitting college basketball, and then I signed up for a 100-mile race, not even thinking to do something shorter. But I feel like it wasn't a great idea to start with a 100-miler, but I also feel like I was mentally and physically ready for it, because even though I was playing basketball, I always felt like endurance came more natural to me. And like mentally, I felt like I was ready for it too.
I didn't know that you were a basketball player. So how did you transition from being a basketball player to a runner? And was that an easy transition, or how did that go? How did you manage that?
It's really funny, because I was like pretty like hardcore into basketball, and like growing up is always like really looked up to a lot of WNBA players, and I still follow the WNBA a lot. But like I always loved running, and even when I was younger, me and my twin sister, we'd go out and run for like 2 hours, or I'd always just run because it was something I enjoyed, and I was always like, I just loved to exercise and move my body. So I think in a way even though I was playing basketball, I always kind of like trained as an endurance athlete. And just like, so I would just, on weekends for hours, I would just do whatever physical activity I could. And so I think when I've heard of ultra running, like it was just like a natural like click, like my brain just like totally switched over, like as soon as I went on the expedition. So, and that way is like, it just seemed like so natural and so easy.
And you've been running since you were in school. So you transitioned from like track and field a little bit, or basketball to ultras?
It was basketball to ultras, pretty
much. Okay.
Like I guess like in like high school, like training for basketball, like I go run around a track and like do laps and different types of workouts, because I always loved running. I knew a lot about it, but like I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, which is a very like sports oriented town, and like outdoor activities you don't really think about. And so like even just like joining like the high school running team, like no one knew who the high school runners were, because the town I lived in just didn't care about running. So yeah, I never even thought about like really joining a team until I was like in college.
Nice. And how did you train for that 100-miler? Did you just say to yourself that, you've been playing basketball and it's okay, you can run 100 miles and end up winning the race? Or
Or did you actually have a training plan in place and you took advice from other people to run the 100-miler? How did you approach it?
I guess I had more of a mentor. So I mentioned Ray Zahab, who's one of the co-founders of Impossible to Possible. So I should explain that. It's like a nonprofit where they use expeditions to educate people on either the most of the time it's like the environment or the social aspects of like the country they're in and doing the expedition. So it's really all about education purposes. But yeah, so like Ray Zahab, he kind of like took me under his wing and he would at least like guide me. He was like, okay, this week run like a 10K fairly fast and then go run 30 miles on the weekend or something. And so like I would always like follow what he told me. But even then, like, it's funny, like I just ran a ton, like as much as I could. Like I was probably doing like 100-mile weeks, like, and like not even having like done a lot of training before, but my body could handle it well because I always was so active. And I guess like I just wanted to finish that first 100-miler, but then Ray planted the idea in my head. It's like, oh, you could probably do pretty well. And so then I had that thought in my head. But then at the same time, when I went into the 100-miler, like I was so unprepared with like the logistics. I remember, so like my sister was pacing me like towards the end, and I don't know, I think we had headlamps, but like the batteries, both our batteries died with like in the first hour. And so then like when we got to like the next aid station, some really nice people gave us like new headlamps we could use. But like I remember when our headlamps died, I was like, how do people run in the dark? Because I had never run in the dark before. So it was a really like interesting experience. But sometimes ignorance is bliss in that way.
So it was more of an adventure.
Yeah, and I think that's what always like draws me into ultra running. Really, is just the adventure of it all.
And so, of course, it's safe to say you were hooked after that, and then you've been training and racing and ever since. How about being vegan? How long have you been vegan, and how did that transition take place?
So I've probably been vegetarian 8 or 9 years, and then vegan the past 5 years. And I think that probably started because it was around 5 years ago too. I had Achilles surgery, and like after Achilles surgery, you're really not allowed to do barely anything at all. Like I couldn't even ride a bike the first week or two, and so I started looking into Cornell's plant-based nutrition course, and so that had just something to do with my time. And I think just as soon as I took that course and actually started learning the science behind everything, it made the switch really easy. And I never thought again, like whether like dairy or meat products were helping me as an athlete or not. And I think I also love learning. So I took that course, but then I also read like as much like research articles, books. I binge watch like nutritionfacts.org videos. And I just learned everything I could, and that education like really empowered me to know like I was doing the right thing. And then I think a core belief of mine is that if I'm either helping or at least like letting things be, that I'm on the right path. But if I'm ever causing harm, I'm off my path. And so that kind of led me to like, oh, I should really research more about dairy and eggs and how those animals are raised and bred. And so once I did that, I also realized like consuming those products are often causing harm. And so that's just not the path I want to be on. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much why I transitioned and why it's been fairly easy for me.
Something similar to Monica's story a little bit.
Yeah, I also went vegetarian first, and then I transitioned to being vegan. And yeah, once I transitioned to being vegan, I didn't really think twice of going back to being vegetarian or non-vegetarian. And it was just like reading and discovering how the whole food industry works. Is because we're just so far away from it. But then when I moved to India, it was sort of like it's in my face on how, chickens are slaughtered, how goats are slaughtered. It's like you can drive down the road and you see that. So it just kind of really hit me really hard, and I was just like, there's just no way that I could go back to eating meat.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, what, of course, your reasons for staying vegan are health reasons and then ethical reasons as well. What are some of the health benefits that you've observed, maybe in terms of recovery or just overall?
Just in general. How has being vegan and plant-based helped you?
I will say ever since becoming like completely like vegan plant-based, my energy has been really good. And I also think it overall like it's improved my mood a lot. And now like I also know the research that like your gut bacteria affects your mood a lot. And so now there's actually some research studies on how eating plant-based can affect your overall mood. And I found that to be really true for myself. I think, so like a big thing for me was giving up dairy because I developed asthma as a young adult. And I tried like, doctors gave me like all these different medications to try and none of them really worked. Like one kind of did, but it still wasn't great. But then as soon as I gave up dairy, like my asthma was so much better. And so that was huge for me. And then I think it was just like yesterday, I saw the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They came up with a new, like, I think it was like a meta-analysis on plant-based diets and asthma. And it all showed that like plant-based diets, they definitely help with asthma. So I think that's the biggest.
They can take your experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of doctors, when they diagnose somebody, it's like immediately they want to put you on medication instead of really figuring out if there's any other alternative way to treat whatever illness that you're having. And especially with like the most lifestyle diseases like high blood pressure, cholesterol, immediately they want to put you on statins. They never really give you that option of saying, hey, if you adjust your diet, you may be able to reverse whatever you're suffering. So it's
your mom,
yeah,
for example.
my mom. So it's unfortunate that doctors, hopefully, as time goes on, and I think now, especially right now with the whole coronavirus happening, that a lot of things are bringing into the limelight, like wet markets and all these things that people are starting to think a little bit more about what they're actually eating and what they're putting in their bodies. And hopefully nutrition becomes a little bit more of a mainstream thing than something that is thought about as just a fad or a diet that you're going to go on.
Yeah, exactly. And I can totally relate to what you said about like having a parent that, like eating a certain way helps, but you don't hear doctors saying that. And so actually where I'm from, like Cleveland, Ohio, we have the Cleveland Clinic, which is a very prestigious like hospital system in the US. And they have a whole department that's lifestyle medicine. And so Dr. Esselstyn, he's written multiple books on being plant-based. He'll still have groups at the Cleveland Clinic and try to help people become plant-based. But unfortunately, what I found out with my dad is like they don't even tell people that they have this option. Like you can try diet stuff instead of medication. And so it's like, you have this great program, but not all doctors are getting behind it or even suggesting this option to patients. And it just doesn't seem fair. So hopefully, I don't know. I have hope for the Cleveland Clinic. Like they are a pretty amazing hospital system. So hopefully like they'll get their doctors on board and get more people in this lifestyle medicine program.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, Monica's mom actually had a nice doctor who gave her an option. He was like, either you get on medication or you change your diet. And her family, her parents still do. They still eat meat. But I think
there was a huge change. I mean, this is back when I was in high school, and immediately like she just modified everything that we were eating, and immediately she also lost some weight. She was feeling much better, and she never had to. She's not been on statins, but she was diagnosed with high cholesterol, and she's been able to maintain a good cholesterol levels. Every now and then they go a little bit higher, and then that's when she has to step back, start exercising a little bit more, and watching what she eats. But overall, she's been able to stay off any medication and just do it off of eating better rather than opting from pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
That's so good to hear. It's good to hear stories like that where people can stay off medication.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, all of us go through a lot of personal challenges. I know, you've gone through your own set, and as have we. What opened your mind up to mindfulness, and what does it really mean to you? How do you harness the term mindfulness and bring positivity into life and running?
I think what mindfulness means to me is being fully in the present moment, and that, like, realizing that I do have some control over my thoughts, or if there's a thought I don't necessarily like if I take a moment to step back, I can create space between whatever I just thought and just decide if, like, that's what I truly believe, or if there's a better way of thinking. But yeah, I think it really comes down just to living in the moment and deciding that I have some control over what's happening in the moment instead of just letting life happen to me. I know there is another part to that question, but I can't think of it right now.
Yeah.
How did you come to being more mindful? Was there something that triggered that in your life?
I think it was a lot of things. I think being outside and movement always connected me with that. But I would say, like, just again, because where I'm from, like, mindfulness was never a term that I heard. But I think it was something I'm innately open to because I love personal growth, and like, something I always say is, like, for every birthday, like, me and my sister always tell each other, like, happy whatever year wiser. And that's because we hope, like, each year we grow into, like, a little bit better people because we take everything that we've learned and apply it to the future. So I think it's part of, like, self-development. I think running definitely helps me, especially, like, time in nature and being outside. But then it was also definitely, like, my personal experiences. Like, I was diagnosed with depression in my early 20s after, like, knowing, like, I had signs of depression my entire life, but also just not wanting to accept that I was going to be on medication my entire life. It kind of led me to another, like, research. I don't want to say hole, but definitely another time where I just did tons of research on mindfulness and also how the brain works and how neuroplasticity works, and then also, like, a sports psychology kick. And I think being open up to knowledge and wanting to learn really opened up my mind to mindfulness and taking the time to think about how I could apply it to my own life. And I feel like compared to, like, 10 years ago, like, I'm a totally different person because of everything I've learned and taken in. And I think, it took a long time to change my thoughts, but because mindfulness allowed me that space to realize, like, I'm not always my thoughts, or that sometimes my thought pattern was just because I was telling myself the same thought since I was a little kid. Like, so many people have the thought, like, I am not enough, and they just repeat that over and over and over again to themselves. And a lot of times it's like me, and it happens since childhood. But that's a thought pattern that's trained in your mind, and it takes a lot of work to undo patterns like that, but it's possible. I think just really wanting to change my mindset and that's also having the tools to try to, like, apply those mindset changes, like, helped me out a ton. But again, it took tons of patience, and I'm still not perfect at it. But I also just, like, I just it's something I will always like relentlessly practice is mindfulness and just trying just to become a better person as I go along.
I can, I can relate a lot to what you said because I've had my fair share of difficulties growing up as well, and I went through really dark phases in life, lots of depression. Never really reached out to anyone or reached out for any sort of medicine or anything. But it's exactly what you said. It was just a constant battle to recognize the mental patterns. It's like a spiral. You have one negative thought and it just goes on and on and on, and every day you wake up and it's the same thing. It's like you brush your teeth every day, it's the same thought, and you have to someday get an axe and break that thought. It takes time, it takes courage. Sometimes it comes back as an afterthought after years. But it is what it is, and you can't let it bring you down. Life is beautiful. You got to step out and do what you love, and I think that's what helped me, and I think that's something that's helped you and a lot of people as well. So
yeah, I think that's really powerful, and something like you just said, like about life being beautiful. Something I probably like annoyingly tell my athletes all the time, especially now, is like, there's always something good to focus on, and you can choose where you put your focus. So even now, like it's a hard time, but there's still a lot of good things that are going along in the world. Like, yeah, you could focus on all the negativity right now, but there are good things going on. So if you just put a little bit more focus on that, it can change your entire attitude.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a question in, if that's okay. There's some questions coming in. How do you define, since we're on the topic, how do you define mindfulness and how do you achieve the same through running?
Well, I guess touching on mindfulness again and how to find it, it's really just fully being in the present moment, to me anyway. Yeah, and just like even like for this conversation, like going into it about being present, like it's just like I think just having social anxiety in the past, it's like, oh, how am I going to look to other people right now? But instead, I could take a step back and be like, what do I want to bring to this conversation? How do I want to make other people feel during this conversation? And so that's part of my mindfulness practice. And how do you achieve the same through running? I think there are tons of ways to apply this to running. And I have a list of like a bunch of tools that I use. But again, I think for running, it's bringing that idea and that main idea into running. So like if I'm just going for a run outside, it's really seeing what's right in front of me. It's feeling the breeze as I run. It's connecting with my breathing. It's noticing all the flowers blooming.
Just becoming one with your surroundings.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's also just being aware of my thoughts as well. Like if I don't feel good that day, it's like I could either beat myself up and be like, oh, you're so slow today. What's going on? Or be like, all right, your body's just tired. Just take it easy and just stop and smell the flowers today. And so I think that's the initial way to bring it into running, but I definitely have a lot of different tools and strategies I use there. And it's something I've actually been working on a big, like, I'll say secret project that has a lot to do with mindfulness and different strategies that runners can use along with their training plan.
Yeah. Do you see this a lot with athletes that you coach? Do you see a lot of mental struggle or mental battles, and how do they overcome it with coaching advice and with running? How does it all sort of blend in?
As a coach, like I love seeing how people's minds work. And there's been a lot of times where like people kind of like mentioned they're starting to struggle. a lot of times if I take a step back and ask, like, what do you really mean by what you're saying? Or like, why do you think you're saying this? Or why do you think you're feeling, or why do you think you're feeling this? Like that person already has so much knowledge in themselves. They just didn't take the time to like listen to themselves and their own advice. So I think that's the first thing with like bringing mindfulness into as a coach is really listening to what the athlete has to say and being able to dig deeper into their own mind.
Yeah.
More to that thought.
How do you push them? I mean, like sometimes as a runner, you try to sort of fight your own advice. Like, you try to tell people, push hard or, try to think positive. But sometimes as a runner, you fall into that trap of, when you're out, like you were saying, you're out running and you suddenly say, oh, today I'm just feeling like crap. This is such a terrible run. I don't even know why I'm out here. How do you get your athletes to sort of, switch that light bulb and get them to start thinking better about each training session that they do? Are there any steps that you have or any specific sessions that you hold with them?
That's a really good question. I think, again, it depends on the person and what I found motivates them or, like some people, like they require a little bit more tough love where like other people like, you got to take the tough part out and just really empathize with them. But one of my favorite questions to ask people is what does your best self look like in that situation? And that really gets people thinking and stops their own negative thought patterns. Like, what is the best way I can think right now? And I love, that's something that I think about every single day is like, what does the best version of myself look like right now?
Yeah.
And then another thing that helps me, and I think that has helped athletes, like just connect with their purpose overall. And like, this is like more of a life thing, but I feel like if you feel good about your life, that often like flows into your running. And so just like developing like a personal philosophy that really kind of embraces who you are and what you want to bring to this life. And so my personal philosophy is serve and grow with a compassionate heart. And so when I think about that in the morning, it kind of like influences how I act throughout my entire day. And so I do like when I can encourage athletes to develop a personal philosophy as well, because I do think it really helps just like embrace like who you are, especially in difficult situations. Just like repeating that to yourself really quick, it can totally change like how you approach a situation. And then I think for a big thing with athletes, it's just being fully committed to being optimistic or committing to like how you want to think, how you want to act. I think commitment is a big thing.
How does competitiveness and mindfulness go hand in hand? Because I feel like sometimes if you're very competitive, sometimes you lose sight of maybe what the situation is like, or you just become somebody very different from your actual self.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something I've thought a lot about for sure. Because I don't think I feel good. Personally, I don't feel good if I'm thinking like I want to be better than this person or I want to beat this person. And in the past, especially when I first started racing, like it gave me a lot of anxiety before races, like because it's all about like trying to be the best. But then when I step back from that and think about how do I actually want to approach the situation in a way that fits me, it's going back to the original definition of compete. And the original definition of compete is to strive together. And so that means, you line up at a race and you look at the people around you and like these people, they're going to push you to be your best and you can push them to be their best. And it's that working together to bring out the best in each other. that's a way that I like to view competing. And like, I know, like looking back at my best races, I never would have performed as well if I didn't have people pushing me. Like all the women I lined up with, like they helped me get out the best in me. And it's not even just like a performance level physically, it's also like on a mental level. Because even just choosing how I want to think during a race, like if I pass somebody or if somebody passes me, am I going to encourage them, or am I going to be like upset if somebody passes me? And so it's still like accepting like that challenge. Like I'm like, yeah, like finishing an ultra, like that's one challenge, but like choosing to think my best and staying true to myself during the race, like that's another challenge. So yeah, I guess that's kind of how I choose to view it.
Yeah, and those are also opportunities to practice mindfulness. You know, if you're feeling down and out and someone's running by you, you may get upset, but you know, you want to be mindful in that situation and say, hey, you're doing well, and I'll see you in another kilometer. I'll catch up. So
yeah, exactly. Like you're always like choosing how you want to think, or like if negative thoughts do come in, it's like you choose whether or not you want to believe them. I think like an interesting with ultra running is like sometimes like there's some pretty like interesting like mind games we play with ourselves. Like so often like in a long race, people will feel like really bad for the middle part of the race, and then the finish line gets near and suddenly like they have an extra gear again. And sometimes that's like a nutrition thing, but sometimes it's just because like mentally, like you see the finish line and you're like, all right, let's kick it in. But I think if you harness your mindset right, like you can push a lot more in the middle parts of the race. But it's choosing how you want to think, or choosing where you want to put your focus. As I said before, like you could focus on how crappy you feel, but you know, there's probably one part of your body that feels good, and you can focus on that. Like, you know, the one part of your body that feels good, it could be your nose, but you could focus on how your nose feels.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, there are times when you just feel really, really crappy, but yeah, there is some positivity, and I think what each of us has to do is develop the ability to recognize where that positivity is. It's hidden there somewhere. We need to recognize that and then bring that to light, and it could do wonders. So
yeah, and I think there's been some really cool studies on positivity during like an endurance events. So like one is, I think it was like a cycling study where they just like flash like smiley faces across the screen like really quick, and it actually like helped how their endurance through like this time trial they did. And so like one thing I do when I race is like I'll like draw like a smiley face on my hand, or if I have gloves, like I'll put like a paw print on my glove. And a paw print's for like my favorite furry niece who always makes me laugh, and just like that smiling, even just looking at a smiley face, like it kind of like boosts your mood a little bit and kind of get you out of like focusing on not feeling as well. And I also like going on with like smiling. There's been some studies that suggest just like smiling to yourself can send like a message to your body that like, oh, you have reasons to be happy. Like let's like send some feel good hormones. That's pretty interesting. Sorry, I have all these studies coming to my mind now. One other one that like applies to this conversation that I think is good, especially for the people in the US right now where like temperatures are heating up. There's a really cool study on cyclists and heat. And so they did all these different time trials. And one, they told the cyclists it was going to be hot. The one, they said it was going to be good conditions. And the last one, they told the cyclist it was to be like a really like, good cycling temperature, but it was actually pretty hot in the room. So, but they lied to them, so they didn't know that. And so they did this last time trial where they lied to the cyclist on like what the temperature was going to be and said it was cooler than it actually was. And all the cyclists who did that test, well, maybe not all the cyclists, but most of the cyclists, they performed just as well in the heat as they did as like during their baseline test that so they can perform as like conditions were ideal and not hot. And so like, I know like I have athletes who just hate the heat, but so I always like show them this test. I'm like, well, part of your mindset, like if you like just focus on how hot it is, like, yeah, you're sending a message to your body that you need to slow down. But if you can, like it's hard to trick yourself into thinking it's cooler than it is, but you can switch your focus, or you can like picture like I've had athletes do this and say it worked really well, where they'll picture like snowing around them as they're running. So like even just like having those imaginary like thoughts around you can help a lot. Like our imagination is incredibly powerful, but a lot of people don't use their imagination as they run anymore. But I don't know, it's something to play around with. Like I love imagination. I think it's really fun when athletes envision themselves in different conditions as they run, and also like trying to get your imagination going as you run a little bit. Like sometimes it takes more energy, but sometimes it can, again, just like going back to like changing your focus and take yourself out of like a current situation and that might not be as comfortable, but to make it focus your attention on something else and just it really just helps your body like feel better. That like the mind is so amazing. We just don't always get enough credit.
Yeah. Speaking about the mind, are there specific mindset strategies that you have like as a mantra that you give your athletes or that you practice yourself?
So I think everyone, they kind of need to develop their own mantra, but so from what and again, this goes back to research, like the words I am can be pretty powerful. And so normally if they have a goal, let's say they're running a marathon and they want to run like sub 3 hours and 30 minutes, I'll have them pretty early on in training start repeating themselves like, I am a sub 3:30 marathoner. And so like, and over time they repeat that to themselves so much, but by the time they get to race day, they already believe it. I mean, hopefully, and they've also probably done the workouts that show like that's possible. But even like, I don't know, like if somebody tries that I encourage people to try it as they're running, because sometimes like I'll even do like the I am going to run this race in a certain amount of time. Like I automatically feel better. Like I start like feel myself like sit up a little bit taller, run a little bit taller. So I really encourage that I am mantras, because it just, again, I am is a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah.
Along with mantras, do you have any specific books or research papers or anything that you would think that people would be interested in reading to help them further understand what mindfulness is and what has helped you?
Yeah, I have like sports psychology books and like the other books. And I actually just posted this. This is a non-sports book, but I just posted this as an Instagram story last week. It's The Way of the Peaceful Warrior series, and I feel like that book especially, or that series especially, have helped really like frame how I approach life. Again, it's The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and it's a 3-book series. But then for sports, I really like Dina Castor's Let Your Mind Run, because I feel like it shows how to use different mindset strategies as a runner. Then I also really suggest following Michael Gervais. He's a sports psychologist, and he really brings a lot of mindfulness into his own practice. So definitely suggest him. I read tons of books. Can't think of them all right now. But those are good places to start.
Yeah.
Also, I think Dina Castor's book, Let Your Mind Run, that's actually how I found the Peaceful Warrior series, because there's different book suggestions within that book. So it's a good place to start.
Sorry, Sandy, was his last name Michael?
Gervais. So it's actually, I'll try to spell it. It's Gervais. I'm pretty sure that's it. But he's worked with like tons of Olympians and professional athletes, so he should be pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those. I'll definitely look myself into those books. And I'm sure those who are watching will, if they haven't read them, they'll probably be interested in reading those.
Yeah. We have some comments coming in from Trail Mama. Yeah, hi. She says, knowledge is power and a good support system around you really helps. Fresh air is good for the body and mind. That's very true. Does India look like a nice destination after COVID?
Yeah, I love to travel and I love to experience different cultures. Yeah, I definitely think it would be a beautiful place to travel.
You were in Nepal last year, correct? With one of the series.
I was. It's one of those trips that were like, I definitely didn't get to see as much as I wanted. There's just a lot going on with that trip. So that Nepal is definitely a place I have to go back to. And I'd love to go more to the Everest range as well.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I've never been to Nepal, but just northern India is quite beautiful, and of course Everest.
Yeah.
On my list also.
From Nepal to Colorado. Okay, how about running and giving 100% in the winters in Colorado?
So it depends on the winter in Colorado. Sometimes like winters in Colorado are beautiful. Like this year, we actually did have a lot of like pretty warm days where you could run in shorts or not be too bundled up. But then there's other, like last winter in Colorado was really hard. Like it was really cold and snowed a lot. But I think giving 100% can mean different things. I guess, so what I'm thinking here is that I'm thinking about grit and making sure that's approached in a healthy manner, because I think I'm the type of person, like I come from a family very much of tough love and just like a really like gritty attitude. But sometimes if you just grind it out in really bad conditions every day, it can just mentally wear you out without realizing it. And then by the time like spring or summer comes, like you're already just exhausted. So sometimes giving 100%, you have to think about like what that means for you. But at the same time, like if it is a bad day in Colorado, even if there's weeks of bad days, it's thinking about like what's the best way to approach that. So I'll always go out and get a run in, but if it's like totally miserable and I'm not enjoying it and I'm just starting to feel like mentally exhausted, then maybe I should cut that run short and focus more on strength or core work. So it's having that gritty attitude where you're really like gonna go out for a run or try it or do something, but also like balancing that out with joy. I always think like making sure you're enjoying what you're doing, maybe not 100% of the time, but most of the time is a really good way to like know if you're like, as an athlete, if you're doing what's right for you.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think rather than grinding it out and just telling yourself I have to get out there, even if it's hailing or and you're just not enjoying the time out there, I don't think it's mentally, like you're saying, it becomes very exhaustive, and maybe there's other things that you should be focusing on at that time.
Yeah, exactly. And I especially think like with like races year round now, like it'd probably be better off if more people took it a little bit easier during like the worst months of winter, and just focused on just either letting your body like fully heal or just working on like little weaknesses and then starting to build up mileage when it's a little bit nicer and it doesn't feel like quite as much as a grind.
Yeah. There's a long question from Nilendu. He says, do you think you have understood yourself better through running? And has running helped you firm your views and focus on many burning issues like equality?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think I've chosen to use running as a tool to help me grow as a person. But that's something I choose now. I think I thought that when I first started running, but it wasn't really true. Again, because I used to have a lot more anxiety or like put a lot of pressure on myself. But now I do choose to use running as a tool that makes me a better person. A lot of it's coming down to like just really like being aware of it came down to like being aware of my thoughts as I run, and this is a way to process and to step back as everyday life, or to use the challenges of running to actually make me a better person when I'm done running. You think, has running helped you firm up your views? Has running helped me firm up my views? You know, I think I was born with the personality where once I know what the right thing is, I feel like I should advocate for it. And I also remember thinking like in school that like the world would be a lot better place if more good people spoke up on what they believed in. Like I just feel like so many bad things have happened in this world. And if good people would have spoken up, maybe they wouldn't have happened, or maybe they would have happened in a less severe way. So I don't know if running has actually helped me. But again, maybe running has given me more confidence to speak up, because I think I am naturally a pretty quiet person, but maybe running has brought me more confidence to put myself in that situation, or at least to like process different situations. Because I feel like whenever you're going to speak up about something, you're going to get some negativity back. Not everyone's going to agree with you, but sometimes like if that happens and I go out for a run and I process it, like it's not a big deal anymore. So I guess in that way, maybe running has helped me a little bit on that way.
Yeah, I think it's the same for all of us, or for most of us at least. It's it's definitely helped me just enjoy life in a different way, and sort of relearn to enjoy life as I did when I was a little young kid. And then there was a phase when you're not a kid and you're not an adult and everything is really bad.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, now I run and I feel free. I feel like a little kid running around, and it's that 1 hour or 2 hours or whatever it is when all your worries are just thrown out the window, and you're just with yourself and your thoughts, and you can control it. You can think about whatever you want. You can think about your childhood. You can think about happy times, and it's your space. No one can get into that hour, 2 hours when you're out running. So
yeah, that's a really beautiful way to put it. I like that.
Somebody else has a question.
Yeah, we have another question from Marisol. She says, "I love to run solo most of the time. What advice would you give an introvert to enjoy group runs?"
I can totally relate to that question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question, but I like it. I think being an introvert going to group runs.
I have an easy answer, but you go ahead.
No, I'll hear your first. And then
I was just gonna say, for me, for Monica and I both, we love beer. So find a group of guys or girls who like beer and go have a good run with them, and go to happy hour after that.
That's such a big thing in Colorado too. Like I think most group runs involve like a good like beer.
Yeah.
Too. So, but I think for me is like also having like sometimes more of a shy nature is like thinking more about other people, because I think if the focus could be like about worrying about myself instead of like focusing about the other people in the group and like what I can learn from them, or the conversations we can have, or what I can take away or bring to other people instead of just worrying about myself. But I also like sometimes it actually helps me to run in a bigger group, because then I could just like latch on to other people who already like having a conversation, and I can listen in and just chime in when I want to. And that way, like, it takes some of the pressure off of me, like, because there's other people who or so maybe I latch on the extroverts a lot too, because they're like so good at talking, where I feel like it takes the pressure off me to talk. So like maybe that's like my best piece of advice, is to like find the extroverts of the group and just kind of like latch onto them a little bit.
Yeah, I think, or maybe also once you start to get to know people within the group, I'm sure you'll find somebody who shares some similarities with you.
Yeah.
They kind of gravitate towards them, and they become your running buddy within the group run.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Like, you find the people you really connect with.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a short quickfire round. Couple of questions for you. Yeah. And yeah, if there's any other questions from the audience, please put them in, because I know we said an hour and we have a couple of minutes left. So, yeah, favorite beer, Sandi?
Ooh, I don't think I can name one exactly. There's so much good craft beer in Colorado.
Yes.
I don't know. So there's Avery Brewing in Boulder. They make an apricot sour that I really like, and it's a really good spring summer beer. So I'll say that right now, but there's so much good beer in Colorado.
When I went there,
Yeah.
we were at Avery 2016.
16, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they have a Maharaja.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's one of the beers.
I think they have a Mara and a double Maharaja, is it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Both of those, and it's pretty strong.
Oh my gosh, like Avery makes some really strong beers, and like if you go for a tasting there, like you have to be careful. They have like, I think they like, some of their beers are like 15% alcohol or like 18%.
Yeah.
And so, man, it's like you gotta be careful with the tasting at Avery, and they have so many choices too. But it's a place to go.
I remember because we were ordering the double Maharaja. We got the Maharaja first, and then I was like, I want the double, and he's like, are you sure?
Warning us.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. Pancakes or waffles?
Ooh, I'll say pancakes.
Pancakes. Yeah, pancakes. 50K or 50 miles?
Oof. Last year I was gravitating more towards like 50K and stuff, but this year I would like to run a 50 miler. Well, races might not happen this year, but when the time comes, I'd like to get back into 50 milers.
Yeah. Do you have a particular 50 miler in mind?
Not right now. Like,
Okay.
I don't even want to think about it until I know races are going to happen.
Okay. A book that you've reached out to more than once, if you can remember.
Oh, so actually it's right here. So it's a book like I've read more than once.
Yeah.
So I recently just read Advanced Marathoning. It's the second book. So this one is by Pete Fitzinger and Scott Douglas. But this is a really good running book. Yeah, so actually, like right now, like, because the library's not open and I love the library, I've just been rereading a lot of like different marathon or running training books. And I also I might start actually reading the Way of the Peaceful Warrior series again. I did order some books to support one of the local bookstores. So yeah, I'll reread some of those books too. Sometimes I don't always like to reread books, but sometimes they contain so much information where it is good to go back and touch up on them again.
Yeah. One last one. On a rest day, what do you prefer, yoga or Netflix?
Both.
Yoga while watching Netflix?
Yeah, I think yoga in the morning, then Netflix in the evening for the rest of the day. I don't know, it's so hard because it does feel good to move a little bit to me. And I feel like if I don't move a little bit, I struggle the rest of the day. I have to get some energy out. So Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with.
Yeah, I think all of us. I think we both like you said, we do yoga and Netflix, and you can't choose one over the other. I think it's important to have an active recovery day.
I think it depends. I mean, if there's ice cream in the house, then it's definitely Netflix.
Yeah. I have to agree with that.
Looks like there's a couple of more questions. No, okay. Well, it's been wonderful speaking with you. I'm really happy that, you could make the time and that we spoke about mindfulness, which is really important. It's not every day that you hear coaches and elite athletes, wanting to focus on something like mindfulness, whereas it's so important for all of us, for each one of us. So thank you for taking the time, for sharing some of your experiences and a little bit about yourself and how you went through certain phases and how mindfulness has helped you. I hope, people who've been listening, I really hope that this has helped some of you. I'm sure it's touched you somewhere. It certainly touched me. And, I spoke a little bit about what I've gone through. And it's definitely something that deserves, I would say, a lot more attention and care than it's given. So thanks again, Sandi, for reminding all of us about mindfulness and how important it is. And
Do you have any last words that you would like to share with us?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure. I don't think anyone's really talked to me about mindfulness before, but I do think that's part is what makes a great runner or even a great coach is being able to bring mindfulness into the equation. I guess my last takeaway is just create the environment you want around you. Think about your personal space, the people around you, who you follow on social media, what music you listen to, what TV shows you watch, what books you read, because all that affects your mental state and who you are. And just be intentional about what you do and who you are and what you want to achieve. I really think it's taking that time to step back and reflect that helps a lot with mindfulness. So yeah, I really appreciate being here. So, and thank you for all you've done for me. I love being part of the Unived team.
Oh no, thank you. No, we're honored to have you. So, and we're really excited for something special. Hopefully that's out soon. So
yeah, super excited about that.
Yeah, we can't give too much away, but hey, Sandi, if people want to get in touch with you for, you're a coach. So if someone wants to be coached by you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
The best way is just to go to sagerunning.com or I think that's pretty easy to remember. Just sagerunning.com, and you'll find everything about running and coaching and a lot of free stuff on there too. I know it's a hard time for everybody right now. So we have free plans, free information. So hopefully that'll be helpful.
Yeah. And, I just want to say, I know that you guys put out a lot of free plans and you give a lot of discounts and a lot of free downloads to people in difficult times, and also to runners who may not be, who may not have a strong financial background, who may not be able to afford a coach of your level. So, and I think that's really commendable, what both Sage and you are doing. So thank you so much for contributing to the running community and giving back. I honestly do not see that happen very often. So it's really amazing. Thank you.
I think that's the main goal, is to always help people as much as we can. It's not about the money, it's just trying to help people in whatever way, whatever talents we have.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Remember to say I am, and remember to stay positive, and remember to be mindful.
And be in the present.
And be in the present, be in the now. Life is today. Thank you, Sandi. We will hopefully see you soon, maybe in India.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Okay. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's pre-breakfast. So since you said pancakes, I'm sure that's what's on the menu.
Maybe he overheard that and now he's cooking that up. I know he likes to cook.
Yeah, he does.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.